Okay, I think we're going to have to sit down and talk about Notion and their recent update. There were some great features added. Thank you for adding hiding properties. Amazing. But the pricing changes, the pricing plans, I'm a little concerned. So hopefully most of you have seen the most recent update where they added the timeline view and loads of other things that I will go over later on in the video, but the timeline view has some restrictions on it which could give us an indication of where Notion are going to go in the future when it comes to the plans. Specifically the paid plans. So currently at the moment from what I can see in my use of Notion is you don't have a limit for the timeline view, but when you actually look at the plans there are limits. So the free plan, as of the time of making the video, it says you can use the timeline view 3 times. Now I don't know whether that's going to be 3 different views of the same database or 3 different databases with a set amount of views. I'm not sure how that would work. Then the Pro plan, you have 3 as well. Business plan is 5, and then Enterprise is unlimited. At this point in time, I don't see much of a use in my workflow using a timeline view, so this restriction doesn't affect me that much. And the reason why is, as a content creator, I will have a time that the stuff is going to be published. The video's going to be published here, the carousel on Instagram's going to be published here, whenever that is. And with the timeline view, you get that, but the way that I plan out my content is I have 2 list views next to my calendar view. So I will have a list of all of my ideas, then I will have a list of all the ideas that have turned into projects that I've gone, yeah, that's a video worth making, that's not just a rubbish idea. Then once I've turned it into a project, I will then attach a date to it by moving it into the calendar view. Now because of the amount of content that I produce, being a content creator, there could be 4, 5, sometimes 6 pieces of content produced on one day. So if I was to see all of that in a timeline view, each of those posts would be a row. Now, if each of those posts are a row, then it's going to be absolutely massive if I'm looking at a month, because I'm going to have over 100 pieces of content going out in that month. So I'm not actually going to be able to see everything that's going on. Whereas in a calendar view, I can see all of that in the days and in the date. Yes, the calendar does get longer if I have lots of content on the same day, but it's much easier to see what's going on there than in the timeline view. That's me at this point right now, and that's my personal preference. That may change in the future, but with the restrictions of only 3 timeline views, I wouldn't be able to do what I currently do and have contextual dashboards for each of the platforms that I use. So I have 2 calendar views in my YouTube dashboard, one for projects and one for tasks. Then I have 2 calendar views in my LinkedIn, and 2 in my Instagram, and 2 in my Facebook. You see where this is going. So if the timeline view is going to be limited, then I wouldn't be able to apply that across my dashboards. And this could be kind of worrying when looking forwards and moving into where Notion go with some of the updates. I'm thinking off the top of my head, API is a big one that should be coming out, fingers crossed, sometime this year. And I know the API is already restricted to the Pro plan, so if you're on the free plan, you won't get beta access to the API. That's what it says. But when it moves further forwards, where are those restrictions going to happen? Maybe Google Calendar is for Pro plan, and then I don't know what other integration. Maybe Gmail is business. I don't know. That's me speculating into the future. For those of you that are using the timeline view or want to use the timeline view, I would imagine it's larger project management, but let me know in the comments below what you're using the timeline view for. For me, when I'm looking at the timeline view, the weekly agenda could be a useful view for viewing the whole week. But again, if I have all of those tasks, it's going to be big. It's going to be big going down, which I don't want to see that. I don't want to have to scroll. That's my preference. And the same thing with time blocking. If you're looking at the hour or daily view, the times go across, and that kind of goes away from my traditional sense of looking at times. That may be because looking at Google Calendar, it goes down the day. So maybe you would need a weekly view for time blocking. Again, that's your preference. But again, the same sort of issue appears, and maybe this is just me not seeing things clearly or just my way of looking at things. But if I've got all of those things going on in the day, all of those hours, if say I time block half an hour out, I'm going to have each half hour going all the way down. That's a long block. But hey, maybe you can use filters and sorts to sort that out. And if you do that and use filters and sorts, then make sure you share a link in the comments below, because I'd like to see, obviously, a template, but not with all your details in. Just share a link below so I can have a look and see how you're using the timeline view. There are a few other small changes that they've made in this update that you may not have seen. The first one being the ability to share subpages. The difference now is you can change the different levels of those subpages. So previously, if you had a certain level of access for a group, a member, or a guest in a hierarchy page, a top level page, all of the subpages would grab the same permissions. Now you can change the permissions of those subpages for individual people. As an example, you could have a group that have access to a main page, say an engineering page, the example Notion gave on their site. The engineering group have access to their top page, but some engineers need more access for some subpages, so you can give them access in the subpage different to the main group. They've also added in more currencies inside the number property. So when you add in currencies for your number property, previously there was a list, but now it's bigger because they've added more on there. This doesn't really affect many of the people in the UK and America because we already have those currencies. But other people in those other countries that have those currencies, they can now use it. Something else that some of you may have seen on a recent stream on the Notion Nerds podcast YouTube channel, which I'll link in the description below, but we actually shared one of the most recent updates, which is where you can see the name of the property next to the tick box in a calendar or gallery view. Previously, you only saw the tick box and you didn't know what property that was related to. Now they show the property name, which is nice, but if you don't want to see the name, you'd have to either add something in that property name so you can't see it, maybe a white tick box or a dot or a line or something, or you just have to rename the property to something you want to see in that calendar or gallery or board view. Another small but significant change they've made is the restriction of having the same property name twice. So if you're in a database, you can't have the same property named the same twice. So you can't have done and done. There would need to be either a symbol, a piece of punctuation, another letter or something in one of those properties to differentiate the name. Now I'm speculating here, but this could be related to the potential API in the coming months, whenever that's going to be, because you can't have now the same property name. So that may be related. I don't know how it works behind the scenes, but it'd be interesting to see how all of these changes are going to affect moving forwards. If you did miss the big update with the timeline view and how it works and hiding properties and how you can do it, I have done a video which you can watch over here which explains all of those things, so I'll see you there.